Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei, coming to you live on CGTN. We begin our program today in Beijing, where the 8th Ministerial Meeting of China-Arab States Cooperation Forum is being held. The most important thing about this forum is what's going to be the future like for the China-Arab nation relations. The forum was established 14 years ago. Since then, both the Chinese and the Arab sides have been increasing economic and trade cooperation. Before we get down to business, take a look at this.
Two civilizations bound together by the Silk Road. This year's meeting will feature comprehensive and in-depth discussions on consolidating the traditional friendship between China and the Arab countries and advancing the China Proposed Belt and Road Initiative. Chinese President Xi Jinping announced that China and Arab countries had agreed to establish a future-oriented strategic partnership of comprehensive cooperation and common developments at the opening ceremony. 4 years ago, during the 6th ministerial meeting, President Xi invited Arab states to join the Belt and Road Initiative. And this time, progress is visible, as Arab states have embraced the construction of the Belt and Road.
Geographically centered in the roots of the Belt and Road Initiative, Arab countries are the natural partners in building the initiative along with China. China's Arab policy paper marks that the initiative has become a major part of the China-Arab relationships. At a ministerial meeting, China and Arab countries will sign a joint declaration for action between China and Arab states on building the Belt and Road Initiative.
In President Xi's new proposals, he said China would be involved in land and sea connectivity projects, clean energy infrastructure, and a bank union to fund industrial parks throughout the Arab world. China and the Arab League formally launched the China-Arab Cooperation Forum in 2004, aiming to promote long-term relations in economy, trade, culture, and technology while advancing peace and development. China has become the second largest trading partner of the Arab states. At the same time, the Arab states are China's largest crude oil suppliers. The energy sector is a key component of China-Arab strategic cooperation. Medical cooperation and people-to-people exchanges are also pivotal to China-Arab friendship.
For more discussion on the relations between China and the Arab countries, we are joined in Beijing by Mr. Li Guofu, who is the Director of the Center for Middle Eastern Studies in China Institute of International Studies. Also joining us, we have Mohammed El-Sudari, who is a researcher at the King Faisal Center for Research and Islamic Studies coming from Saudi Arabia. I want to welcome both of you, gentlemen. Let me begin by asking you, Mr. Li, very briefly, help us to understand, what does it mean this time? It seems that this is a grand-scale interaction between Chinese and the Arab countries. This is going to be a new starting point of the relations?
Yes, of course, as President Xi Jinping mentioned during his speech, and because of China and the Arab nations jointly, we have formed what we call the strategic partnership for the comprehensive cooperation and common development. And so, both sides' relations will start from this very high level. And also, I think that during the President Xi's speech, and China offered some, new proposals of both sides' cooperation in the next 2 or 3 years, and also offered Chinese solution to the current, Middle East problems.
Mr. El-Sudari, coming from the Arab countries' perspective, even though there are a lot of different perspectives among the Arab countries on different issues, may I ask you about whether China will be able to, or the China-Arab country relations will be able to address some of the key challenges countries in the Arab region are facing?
Well, I think one of the major key challenges that Arab states are facing writ large is really economic in nature. You have a segment of Arab states that have undergone civil wars, have had to experience years of unrest, and another segment of Arab states that are trying to pursue reforms in the political economic arena. They want to create sustainable futures for their populations. So in that area, I think Sino-Arab cooperation can really offer many solutions and certainly can help these Arab states to restore stability and to attain the development that they would like to pursue. In the political arena, however, I think there is still a great need for investing in political trust, in developing the connections that would really enable China to play that role that we in the Arab region would aspire to play down the line.
Mr. Al-Sadari, if I could just be frank with you, Arab countries are not lack of cash or fund. If you look at the history of many of the Arab countries which are oil rich, actually it is not the problem. It's about whether the fund coming from one country is likely to go to the other countries that are facing problems right now. So how would China's role be in a region in which there are quite some differences among neighbors in the Arab region? Can you help us to understand better about that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, yes, there are going to be fundamental differences in the region on political issues, on existential issues, and so forth. But I think, in terms of the wide array, or at least in terms of the larger number of Arab countries, there is a desire to obtain development, and they would like to pursue cooperation down the line. And I think that would build on the momentum of the fact that the region had undergone many years of upheavals as a result of the Arab Spring. So there is also, I would say, a popular and also elite exhaustion with the situation on the ground, which I think is one of the reasons that is leading many Arab states to really want to reorient east once more and are really eager to cooperate with China as a result.
Mr. Li, of course this is happening with a big backdrop. For the Arab countries, the Arab Spring so-called, in the early years, there's likely to be very different results in different countries. Secondly, you've got the Arab countries trying to struggle with the challenges of the future of the oil industry, because energy now are coming from so many different formats and possibilities and sources, and therefore the significance of Arab countries is likely to be examined with a new light. Thirdly, you also see the United States relations with some of the key Arab countries have been sometimes getting warmer, and with the others not necessarily so, particularly on the Palestinian-Israeli issue. So, Mr. Li, at this point, what can be the political fruit for both sides, China and the Arab countries? Remember, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said earlier that China and the Arab countries should respect each other's core interests. Well, that has a lot to do with politics, isn't it?
I think, the core interests of, the China as well as the Arab countries, it depends on from what kind of angles. As our Saudi friends say that, one of the key challenges, or we say one of the key, problems the Arab countries in general they have is, the economic problems, especially how, the governments, in order to maintain a kind of stabilities, they need to improve, the people's living standards, and also to raise a kind of a level of the industries. And though, we may assume that, the Arab countries, they have the money, they have, the funds, but I would say that, the majority of the Arab countries that do relatively poor in various areas. Even, for example, the Saudi Arabia, they may be rich in the oil resources. They may have, amount of the monies and also, various, sources. But, as far as the level of industries is concerned, I think even the country like Saudi Arabia is
so it's about looking for the new path of development and new opportunities as well for both sides. Talking about cooperation between China and the Arab states, it has been booming over the recent years under the Belt and Road Initiative. Take a look at some of the numbers. Since 2014, 9 Arab states have signed agreements with China to join the building of the Belt and Road Initiative. In 2016, 7 Arab states become founding members of the China-initiated AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. China has become the second largest trading partner of the Arab states. Bilateral trade volume rose from $36 billion in 2004 to over $190 billion in the year 2017. More importantly, imports and exports are largely balanced between China and the Arab countries. And more numbers to share with you, Mr. El-Soudari, if I can. We are hearing from the speech from Chinese President Xi Jinping today. He's talking about China is providing 100 million yuan to support the Palestinians. He's talking about $20 billion loans to the Arab countries for economic development. He's also talking about 8 trillion China imports over the next 5 years, in which there could be a huge chunk that are coming from the Arab countries. Meanwhile, he's also talking about $750 billion outbound investment from China over the next few years, and it could go to the Arab countries as well. But will Arab countries be competitive, though, in China's both import initiatives and also outbound investment?
I think, yes, this competition is bound to happen, and it's going to lead, unfortunately, to a lot of waste and also a lot of mistakes and mishaps on the ground. I mean, if we look at the Gulf region, for instance, we have multiple infrastructural projects that are being developed in very close proximity to one another. If we look at the UAE with Abu Dhabi, for instance, Doha, Kuwait, there are other projects going on there, as well as Oman and the Duqm Industrial Zone, or even in Jazan in southern Saudi Arabia. And this has raised a lot of issues and debates about, well, given all this development that is taking place, how can these areas become viable and can actually compete in the international arena when they're competing for a very small pie? So these are issues that are going to be raised. And obviously, you know, if we look at the Belt Road Initiative, it's a negotiated and open process, and there are going to be mistakes and mishaps on the ground. And ultimately, I think the markets are going to decide what are the projects that are going to be sustainable and viable. So this competition, in fact, might be a very good thing. You know, we shouldn't really interpret it in very black and white terms.
I see. Well, we're talking about Belt and Road Initiative. I also want to invite another expert coming from China on the phone, Zhang Jianping, Director General of the China Center for Regional Cooperation in the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation. Mr. Zhang has been doing research about the BRI for quite some time. Mr. Zhang, the potential of the Arab states in the BRI, what about their significance? Even though they were important countries in the ancient Belt and ancient Silk Road, but how relevant are they besides energy in today's what China is talking about, the BRI?
Yeah, actually, you know, in the history, actually, China's both Silk Road and inland and maritime Silk Road, that one of the destinations that is Arab countries. Meanwhile, today, you know, by so advanced modern, you know, transportation system, of course, Arab countries still the very important partners for China's Belt and Road Initiative. Especially this initiative provided a more comprehensive and systematic cooperation platform and development platform.
Give me some example, Mr. Zhang, if you can. What are some of the projects you think that would really cater to the competitive edge of both sides, China and the Arab countries, that is really likely to function as good examples for the BRI?
Yeah,
give me some examples.
To give you a comprehensive example. That is, for example, in Arab countries, they lack of enough infrastructure and lack of human resources, lack of capital. And the Chinese side can provide all of them. You may find that recently infrastructure improvement and there's so lot of architecture actually built by Chinese. On the other hand, you know, if you look at, you know, e-commerce right now has a rapid development in Saudi Arabia and other, you know, Arab countries, and those consumers can enjoy Chinese food and they import a lot of Chinese goods. Meanwhile, Chinese side can import oil and gas. And also, you know, if you look at even it's for energy sectors, for example, Sinopec expanded their, you know, downstream refinery plants in Saudi Arabia. And that means that, even if in oil and gas, these sectors, production chains expanded step by step.
All right, Zhang Jianping with us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the phone. I want to come back to you, to Mr. El-Sudari, if I can, sir. The issue about BRI, one of the most important one is, people have to understand it is not just about China provide the money, China provide the people, China provide the investment. It's about an initiative proposed originally by China, but going to be joined by partners around the world if they see there's going to be a win-win situation, if they see there's going to be long-term gain for them as well as a participant. So as a result of that, what Mr. Zhang said is perfectly beautiful, because China has been contributing money, people, and building. But what about the attributions coming from the Arab countries that would make you also have a win-win result under the BRI initiative?
Well, I think in addition to these material offerings, right, investment, development assistance, even in terms of just providing know-how and knowledge on governance practices. I mean, you are having tens of thousands of Arab officials training in China under the rubric of the initiative. But I think more importantly, if we look, for example, at President Xi's speech, and we see this theme actually reiterated in all the 3 speeches that he has given over the last 6 years directed at the Arab world, is a narrative that is very appealing to many Arab officials as well as the Arab public at large, which is, this idea of a mutual fuxing zhimeng, a sort of, rejuvenation dream that is not just Chinese, but it's also an Arab one. And in many ways, I think for a lot of Arabs nowadays, this idea of a Zhongguo Fang'an, a type of China way or a China model, is very interesting. And this actually is one of the major drivers for the BRI, because it gives them an ideational understanding of the path they want to go to in the future.
I see. Mr. Li, before we go, I also want to invite your final words on this as well. In the long term, what is likely to bring China and the Arab countries together? Remember, Arab countries have very different views on some of the issues among themselves. So how is China going to really balance well among these key strategic issues?
China tried to offer a kind of solutions, and we believe, by the end of the day, could solve all or relatively largely, the major issues or conflicts in the Middle East. Because we strongly believe, peaceful dialogue and peaceful developments would be the key for all the solutions to the problems. And if every country, and especially the Arab countries, they can adapt this kind of the methods, and largely most, I would say, not all, the problems could be solved through dialogue and mutual development.
All right. Li Guofu, Mohammed El-Sudari. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.